What's up, guys, and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be talking about 10 things that I wish I knew when I was in Silver Elo. We're going to be doing things a little bit differently today. I normally would do this in sort of a monologue fashion with a prepared script, but today I just have a few points prepared, and I actually have a friend joining me for today's video. His name is Nasty. He has a YouTube channel of his own, so I'm going to leave his channel link in the description for you guys to see if you're interested. The reason why I brought Nasty on today's video is because, one, he's someone that I've been doing with a lot, and two, he's recently gotten into Master Tier, and I feel like he'd be a really good voice to echo off of whatever I say and to bring up some new points to the table, because obviously he's been playing for a long time like myself, and he's a really high rank. So I think it'll be helpful for you guys to hear more of a dialogue discussion as opposed to me just ranting about what I think. So without further ado, I want to introduce my friend Nasty.
What's up, guys? I am Nasty, and like Heisman said, I am a Master Tier support main, and I'm trying to grow my channel on YouTube. And I make videos kind of similar to what Heisman does, so I highly recommend you guys go check me out. And I'm excited to be here and to help today, so let's get into it.
All right, guys, so kicking things off with the first thing I wish I would have known in Silver Elo, it's fuck your pride. I really can't tell you how many games I've seen thrown, or I've personally been responsible for throwing, over dumb, petty arguments, and I think this can be applied to really every elo, not just low elo, because I see this happen even in high diamond, and really this is good advice for myself because I still do this shit from time to time, but fighting or arguing with your team in chat is just a waste of thought and energy. You know, not only will it distract you from actually winning the game, it'll most likely tilt you and everyone else on the team, causing everyone to make bad decisions. So the best thing to do in these situations is to de-escalate the situation and slash mute if need be. Fuck your pride. These flamers just really aren't worth it.
Yeah, I really don't know, dude. It's not even just a low elo thing. I would say it's definitely more common in lower elos, but it's something about the League of Legends community, dude. It's people have this ego and they think that they're always right all the time, and they can never really admit to their mistakes, and because of that they can never climb because they can never fix their mistakes. But I would say that it's definitely a lot more common in lower elos, just because I feel like people aren't really aware that they're actually making these mistakes, and they're just, instead of looking for ways to fix them, they're kind of just looking to their teammates to find blame for it.
Yeah, and I just hate when games become a pride war. Like, instead of focusing on winning the game, you just try to preserve your pride. So when someone tells you you're bad, you feel like you have to defend yourself, and that becomes the most important thing. And you lose focus on like what is actually important. It's like you're playing this game so that you can climb. So when you get involved with all this dramatic trash talking, like you end up just screwing over the entire game. And I thought this is something that I would only see in lower elo, but as I climbed, I realized that it actually doesn't go away. There's always going to be someone trying to tell you that you're bad or like you're the reason why you're losing, just because they don't want to feel like they're responsible and they don't want to admit that they're fucking up. So yeah, that's definitely the first thing I wish I would have known a lot sooner.
Okay, so for this next point I have, you don't always have to fight to the death. So basically, I've seen this quite often, especially in lower elos. When a fight breaks off, everybody likes to kind of just fight to the death. So you don't always have to fight until everybody on your team is dead or everybody on the enemy team is dead. If a fight starts off bad, it's not a bad idea to just get out and just eliminate as much damage as you can.
Like you said, I think I see this a lot at higher level of play, like especially when I'm watching like LCS games. I'll see like a 5v5 breakout, and somehow no one will die in the fight, and I'm always wondering like, how did no one die? And it's because teams are probably on comms calling out like disengage, like bad fight. Like they don't have this buyer's remorse that I see every time I play solo queue, where like a fight will break out and I feel like no matter what, even if it's a bad fight, they have buyer's remorse and they don't, you know, they've already committed so many resources. Why back out now? Just because a fight started doesn't mean it has to be finished.
I think it's definitely a patience issue. I think in solo queue, everybody's kind of just like sitting at the edge of their seat, waiting to make that big play to end the game or give their team a lead, when in reality, making that big play when it's not the correct time can actually just result in a lot of big throws. So you have to be patient, wait for the right opening, and even if you like commit and it doesn't go well right away, it's not a bad idea to get out.
All right, guys, so the third thing I wish I would have known when I was in Silver Elo is that the truth is there's always going to be a higher Elo or a higher rank that you can get to, and you'll never truthfully feel content with your rank. So don't kick yourself too hard about getting to the next elo, because you're just going to realize once you get there that you wanted to now get to the next division after that. My point being, don't obsess over your rank, obsess over your play. I'm just curious what you think about that, Nasty, because you're in Master Tier, so you're where I want to be. So I'm curious, now that you're there, do you feel content or do you want to be higher rank?
No, I agree. It's definitely a hunger thing. I mean, I started off this season at Diamond 5 and I got to Masters, and I thought I'd be content with that. but I'm really not. I'm always trying to push myself. Even the professional players, if you ask them, they're not happy with their play. They're always trying to push to the next level.
Yeah, and the point I want to stress here is that like you're not gonna magically feel like content once you get to gold if you're in silver, or once you get to plat once you're in gold, etc. Like I feel like no matter what, you're always gonna have this feeling of like I'm not where I want to be. So you just kind of have to just right now just make the decision that you're not going to worry about rank, because I'm telling you that feeling never goes away. I'm in diamond, and I remember how if I was in diamond I would feel content. No, as soon as I got to diamond I wanted masters, and I know once I get to masters I'll want challenger. So just focus on getting better at the game, because it'll make your state of mind so much clearer. You'll be so much more calm if you just focus on getting better.
I personally think this next tip is really important, and that is I think you should stick to playing meta champions. So what do you think about that?
So I agree and disagree with that. The reason why I disagree is because I don't think meta champions always equals gaining elo. I mean, the reason why it's meta is because it works a lot better at the professional level. They're the ones that kind of decide the meta. But there's plenty of examples of people that have niche picks that end up getting them to higher elo. But I do agree that it's not a good idea to be like, oh, I'm going to take Urgot all the way to diamond just because you want to be different. Like, I remember I had a friend who tried to get to platinum, and he was just so against the meta that he would like play like Nidalee mid and like all these very awkward picks just to kind of like be that guy that doesn't follow the meta. I don't necessarily think that's a good idea. Like, you're not going to be optimizing your chance to get to the next rank if you're playing off meta. I'd say the point just has to be refined to pay attention to the meta. Don't obsess over it. Make sure that you know what the meta is so you're not picking just horrible picks for your team.
I think you said it pretty well, where it does optimize your chances a lot more. But my point is, if you play champions that just have a higher win rate and are good at them compared to a champion that doesn't have a good win rate and you're also good at them, you're just going to have a lot better chance at winning your games, because simply the champion is better and it's easier to win your games with.
All right, so moving on to the fifth thing that I wish I knew when I was silver. It's to learn how to get carried. Don't try to always be the one carrying the game. Never make yourself a horrible liability when you start to lose lane or you start to get behind. Focus on damage control and not being completely heavy for your team. Just make yourself as light as possible, because there's often a lot of games where you're going to be behind and you just have to accept that, okay, I'm behind. How can I make it so that my team can carry me? I think too many people, when they get behind, they think the game's over just because they can't carry now. That's not true at all. There's so many games where I've gotten behind, but I've still come back and made a huge impact and let my team carry me because of my actions. Like, you can still impact the game without carrying the game. What do you think about that?
I mean, this isn't something that I would recommend you get into a habit to. The best way to actually win a game in solo queue is to carry it yourself. But obviously, you're not always going to have that perfect game. People do have bad games. You do fall behind. So in these situations, I agree. You should just let your other teammates carry. Don't make the game harder on your teammates. Minimize your amount of deaths. Just play around them. Build defensively if you have to.
Yeah, adapt to the situation. I think this goes back to one of the earlier points I made about your pride. This is another pride thing. Just because you lose doesn't mean that you're a bad player, and that you, like, if you lose to someone in lane, it could be a variety of factors. Maybe you got camped. Maybe you got unlucky. Maybe you made one stupid mistake. Maybe you lagged or something. There's so many reasons why you could have lost. Don't let your pride, once again, fuck over the rest of the game for your teammates, because instead of building tanky, you're like, fuck it, I'm going to go 0-2. I'm going to show this guy that I can win lane. Like, no, like, build tanky in these situations, or build the way that your team needs you to be building. Play safer. Don't continue to die once you go down 0-2. I think this is like a really important point, because there's too many people in the league community, especially that I play with, that when they get behind, they think that they need to like prove themselves to everyone, so they'll try and get back into the game by making risky plays. The only time that you should do this is when everyone is losing and you're just kind of like hoping that you can get something going. If you see someone doing well in a different lane, or your jungler is destroying, just let them carry you. It's really that simple. Let them carry you and do your best to not be heavy. Before we get into the rest, I want to take a quick moment to thank HASTE for sponsoring today's video. If you're from North America and you want to optimize your connection to the servers, which could lead to reducing your ping, preventing you from disconnecting, and reducing that jitter that you sometimes get while playing, HASTE has been working diligently at optimizing their service, and it's still free for a little while longer, so come try it out while you can for free. The link for HASTE is down in the description. I really like this company, so I highly recommend giving it a shot. Let's move into the rest of the discussion.
All right, so this next one you've probably heard a lot of times if you've watched any sort of video on tips and tricks to climb, and that is climbing takes time. Even if you were to dedicate 100% of your time and effort, if you were to just sit down every single day for a week or even a month and just play nothing but League of Legends, you still probably wouldn't see the results you're looking for, because this game has a lot of factors into it and has a really big learning curve. So I think you just have to be patient when playing this game if you're really looking to climb.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, when I was in lower elo, I would play way more League of Legends than I played now, and I just couldn't seem to climb for a really long period of time. Like, it was like 9 months that I was in silver, and I expected that to be like, oh, it's unlucky, bad teams, whatever. But in reality, that's kind of normal. I was relatively new to the game at that point. I had only been playing ranked for like 1 season, and I just kind of expected myself to be climbing because I was putting in a lot of hours. But one piece that I was missing is that it's more than just playing. It's also learning from other players, watching LCS. There's so many resources out there that'll help you get better outside of playing. It takes 10,000 hours to actually master something. That's a fuck ton of time. If you think that you've put in a lot of time because you've been playing nonstop for 3 months, just remember that 10,000 hours is the golden rule for mastering anything. So yeah, there's always more time to put into something. All right, moving on to the next point. Playing really well or carrying in a few games doesn't mean anything if you can't do it consistently. I used to convince myself that I deserved to be higher elo just because I would absolutely go off in some games. The problem, though, is if you're not a consistent player, you're not going to climb, plain and simple. Consistency is often what differentiates a low elo from a high elo player.
I think I'd have to agree with that, but I'm definitely guilty of that myself. I've had some like really massive win streaks this season, especially I went from D5 to Masters this year within a week. And then even in Masters, I've went from Masters 0 LP to like 150 LP in a few days. And when I'm on these massive win streaks, I'm just like, I'm feeling on top of the world. And I'm thinking, dude, I deserve challenger. I'm going to be challenger in no time. But you really just got to stay humble. Understand that it's all about consistency. Just because I'm having these massive win streaks doesn't mean that I deserve challenger. It's all about being consistent in your play.
Yeah, and the reason why I bring this point up in the first place is because I think it perfectly reflects how I acted when I was in silver elo. I remember I would play Syndra. I was a mid lane main, and Syndra was like my go-to bitch. And I would go like 15-0 in a game and be like, see, this is proof that I deserve to be platinum when I was like in silver. I'm destroying these kids. These kids aren't on my level. But then the next game I would like do bad, or like I would go even, or like I just like wouldn't really win my lane. I wouldn't really impact the game that well. And I think that what's important to take from that is that just because I can go 15-0 in a game doesn't make me automatically better than this elo. Everyone can have good games, but if you can't do it consistently, that's what's going to differentiate you from getting to the next elo, getting to the higher elos, because higher elo players can come down to your elo and do that every single game.
This next one goes right back to what we were saying earlier about people being stubborn, I would have to say. And that's that you don't have to play a lot of champs. So I feel like a lot of people have this mentality that they need to be able to play every single play style because they see LCS players do it. But I mean, these guys get paid a lot of money to be able to play to these play styles. And you don't really need to have this variety of a kit in solo queue. You can kind of just learn how to play a few things and stick to those. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, so I think it just depends on the person. Like, for me specifically, I don't want to have a large champion pool because I perform better when I'm really good at the champions that I'm playing on. Like, if I just randomly pick out some meta champion and just be like, well, he's good, might as well use him. That doesn't mean I'm going to play well because I have no experience on that champion. I would much rather have a one-trick Urgot than a first-time, like, Renekton top. You know what I mean? Like, and I think this goes back to the point that you made last time, which was just that you need to put a lot of time into this game to get better. You need to put a lot of time into champions to get better at champions too. Like, if you're playing a lot of champions and you're only putting a certain amount of time on each of them, you're really not going to get that much better at the game because you're just too jack of all trades at that point. I would say it's definitely important to master the champions that you're playing and get really good at all the champions in your champion pool, as opposed to trying to play every champion just because you think you need to. All right, so the next point I want to bring up is that you learn more from defeats than you do from victories. Don't make excuses for why you lost, or you might miss out on some valuable lessons and opportunities to improve and get better.
Got it. All right, so this is one of my biggest pet peeves in League of Legends. I absolutely hate it when at the end of a game, people will start to just basically throw insults and excuses at your teammates and just try to play it off like it wasn't their fault at all. And they just try to make so many excuses why the game was lost, avoiding them at all costs. This is a team game and you do have to play around your teammates, and it could be really hard to do at times, but I think it's really important to emphasize on yourself. Just pay attention to yourself and your mistakes at all times. One thing that I've done a lot personally this year is I started rewatching my games and writing down my mistakes so that I could basically learn and play better in the future. What I'm not doing is I'm not rewatching these games and pointing out every single one of the mistakes that my teammates made. I'm focusing on myself and trying to improve myself as a player.
Yeah, and I don't want to come off as redundant because I think a lot of people have probably heard that one before, but it really is important. Like, the reason why you're hearing it is because it's one of the most important ones. Yes, you can learn a lot from victories. You can try and mimic what you did to try and do it again, but when you lose, that's the best time to reflect and figure out what you did wrong and don't do those mistakes again. If you make a mistake twice, that's your fault. If you make it once, it's just a learning experience. If you continue to make that mistake, that's on you. So definitely learn from your defeats.
The last thing I would have liked to have known when I was in Silver Elo is don't put too much emphasis on your KDA. So basically, having a good KDA does not mean you will win games. There's so many other factors in the game, and if you simply focus on boosting your KDA, you won't be optimizing your chance to win.
I think what Nasty's trying to say is that I'm a KDA player and don't watch me because I'm all about KDA, right?
Filthy KDA player,
Are you
dude.
taking a shot at me right now?
Absolutely, you're a filthy KDA player.
No, but I actually do agree with that. Like, people talk about KDA as if, like, that means everything. Like, especially when people ask me for tips, they're like, hey, man, I need help climbing. Like, I go 5-0 or whatever every game and I still lose. Like, I just don't know how to climb. It's like, well, because KDA really doesn't mean anything. Like, KDA just reflects that you're dying more, or that you're killing more than you're dying. That's really what it means. It doesn't mean anything about actually winning the game. You could be 10-0, but if you're sitting in a lane not helping your team out, then you're not going to be helping your team win, and then you probably won't win. So, yeah, I would definitely say that putting too much emphasis on KDA is just a horrible habit to get into.
It's just a number, dude. Like, I want to put so much emphasis on it. KDA is just a number. It does not in any way factor in the actual plays that you made during the game.
All right, guys, so with that, I'm actually going to conclude the 10 things I wish I would have known when I was in Silver. I know this was kind of informal. It wasn't really super well thought out and scripted. It was supposed to be a dialogue that we didn't really plan out, and we just kind of talked about it. So I hope that was fun for you guys to watch and helpful. Like I said, Nasty has his own YouTube channel. He's a Master Tier support main, and he's relatively new to YouTube, but he's someone that I've known for a while. So I would really appreciate, I know he would, if you went and check out his channel. He's trying to do videos somewhat similar to mine to try and track his climb from master to what he hopes to get to, which is to become a professional player. But regardless, you guys might like his channel, so go check it out. That's where I'm going to end today's video. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the whole video, and as always, till next time.